Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Corporate Cardboard. This is a board game variety show where we talk about all matter of things related to board games, including what we've been playing this week, favorite mechanisms, favorite components, all kind of things. So I'm Dan from Chairman of the Board, and joining me as always is my fabulous co-host Mackenzie. How are you doing? Mackenzie? You okay?
I'm doing great. Today is another fantastic Wednesday, and let's get started. Let's talk about some games.
Okie dokie. Well, we're going to start as normal with what we've been playing this week. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to be starting with a game by a very popular designer. This is Glass Road by Uwe Rosenberg. Now, Uwe Rosenberg is actually a designer who despite his immense popularity, I don't actually play many of his games. I don't quite know why I haven't, but this one always appealed to me because it seemed to be on a lot smaller scale than his other games. It is a game that takes probably around 45 minutes to play, and it has some pretty interesting mechanisms in this one, where you are essentially playing cards from a set in your hands, and you're going to use those to do lots of different things, such as acquiring tiles for your player board. You're going to be clearing out forestry, you're going to be collecting resources, but it has this really cool mechanism where if you play the same card as someone else, you can almost piggyback off their actions and get more kind of mileage from the hands of cards that you've played. And on top of that, it has a very interesting resource mechanism where you basically automatically generate more valuable resources the more you collect other resources. So, for example, if you collect, say, a coal, a food, a sand, as these things kind of build up, it'll automatically start generating glass where there are gaps between the resources you've got. It's very hard to explain. It's something you probably have to see for yourself. But I thought that was really fascinating. I was quite impressed about how quickly this one played. I'll try to get a picture up off of the wheel here about how this one works.
The concept itself sounds really cool, though. I mean, this is a neat concept. And as you were describing, I really like the idea of kind of selecting from those roles and putting them out. It adds that cool prediction aspect and anticipating what your opponents are going to do. That's great.
Yeah. So, basically here, as you see, because there's this gap here, this would automatically shift along and automatically generate a glass, which is, I've never seen anything like this at all, and it was really quite interesting and created some quite difficult decisions to make, because sometimes you want these resources to build these new tiles, but at the same time you want to get the resources to get more expensive resources. So sometimes you have to keep things low on the track in order to buy things. It's very, very interesting and certainly really worth checking out if this is your bag.
So I'm a huge Uwe Rosenberg fan, so this is really cool. I've heard good things about this and At the Gates of Loyang, but I have not tried those two, so those are definitely on my list to check out next. I just tried Fields of Arle recently, so this looks really cool. I love how different it sounds. It reminds me of like the difference of a game like Broom Service in Alexander Pfister's pedigree with the things that he's done. So this is really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I would recommend checking out. Very strange change of pace. Some good decisions, but in a 45-minute game, I was really impressed. So that's Glass Road by Uwe Rosenberg, and that one got my my shield of quality.
Oh, fantastic!
So, what have you been playing, Mackenzie?
So the first thing that I've been playing is some Gaia Project. So I'm a big fan of Terra Mystica, Gaia Project. I do prefer Gaia Project a little bit more because it has this awesome tech tree that you're going to be using, and I got to play as the Terrans this time. Terrans have this really cool function where they really play into the new mechanisms and mechanics that are on display in Gaia Project. One of those mechanisms is the Gaia forming, where you have these purple planets that are kind of around and no one can really access them right away or build on them, but you can use them and Gaia form them so that they're habitable in the future. And that's what I did. And there's this really cool effect that these guys have where each time that you do this, you get additional resources based on how much you spend to do it. And I think that's really fun. It adds for a lot of future planning. It allows you to be really flexible and really play the board. And I just had a lot of fun. So really enjoy Gaia Project. Have you played any games in this series?
No. For some reason, I never pulled the plug on or kind of flipped the trigger on Terra Mystica, and I don't know why, because I thought it might be, the kind of thing I'd go for. Am I right in thinking it's quite a long game? Is it
I think that this game is perfectly timed. It's got a set round structure, and the actions themselves are very quick. And I think that's what really made us enjoy it so much. This was actually one of the first games that my wife and I actually started playing board games with, which is kind of crazy because it's on the heavier end, but it's something that we really gravitated to and really linked onto. The actions are quick, the turns are fast, everything is pretty intuitive, the way it all works together. And I think Gaia Project even more so because they're tied into those tech trees. And I think it's a wonderful system. I love the different factions, so it's going to be something that you're going to be coming back to, and it's something that you can plan from turn one, which is awesome. You have this huge amount of strategy, but also you have tactics based on where the other players are playing, so there is a lot of interaction. So I really can't recommend this one enough. I think that this would be right up your wheelhouse.
Okay, yeah, I am certainly intrigued to try this one. I mean, I know it's massively successful.
For a reason.
Yeah, and usually I find that is for a reason. So I will be checking that one out. I don't know how soon, but I will certainly do it one day. Okay,
and
cool.
Victory Point Coalition agrees with me. Love Terra Mystica. I agree. And honestly, you should get both because if you like one, Terra Mystica is just more factions for Gaia Project in a different setting. And if you like Terra Mystica, Gaia Project is just more factions for Terra Mystica. It's a win-win. I strongly recommend it.
Sounds amazing. Okay, so the second game I've played this, in the last couple of weeks, is a bit of a classic, one that goes back nearly 30 years now, and I'm on a bit of a spree playing Reiner Knizia games. This one is Modern Art. So Modern Art is another auction game by the good doctor, very much known for his auction-style games. And this one is probably one of the purest examples of that, where it basically is back-to-back auctions, all different types of auctions. You've got kind of a one-bid auction, you've got blind bidding, you've got the standard kind of, I'll pay this kind of auction. And the thing I really liked about this game was the way that the scoring works. So at the end of each round, depending on who the most popular and prolific artist was by playing these cards throughout, is going to generate the most money at the end of the round. But because the game is divided into four very distinct rounds, in the following rounds, that artist might not be popular anymore, and his artwork might be worth nothing. But that kind of initial money or prestige it got from the former rounds does accumulate if he does come back into popularity. So I love this almost speculation about how much this artwork is going to be worth. You can kind of try and fast track auctions, try and catch people off guard. So you've got all the artwork and nobody else does. And I think it's just a really good example of another auction game. And I find that I'm starting to get a few too many auction games in my collection now, because it's generally a mechanism I tend to enjoy. And I'm trying not to get too bloated in that kind of category. So I think this one is actually going to replace Ra in my collection, which is a game that I've always kind of touted highly. I'm not sure if it's better than Ra. I think it's somewhat of a sidestep, but because I've almost exhausted Ra playing it so many times, that it's just kind of injected a bit of life into my collection, and I'm really happy with it. I think it has a slightly funner, slightly more party vibe to it, and it does scale to a higher. No, I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure if that's true, but I think it has a slightly lighter and more accessible vibe to it, and it has a slightly amped up fun factor to Modern Art.
So two things on this game. First off, what version do you have? I know there's like 1,000 versions out there because it's been published by everybody, but the artwork is different based on where you get it from. Which one do you have?
So I have the Common version, which I think is the latest one. I did try and go for the Oinkfoot version, which I've heard is really good, and it comes in a lot smaller box. However, I could only find it in a different language. So if I'd known how simple the rules were, I might have gone for that one. But I'm happy this one. It comes with a nice wooden gavel, and it's a nice little gimmick that really ramps up the party vibe. So happy with this one. And again, another shield of quality for
excellent
for Modern Art. So yeah, happy with that one.
And then one other thing. So I know how you said that this had kind of like a party vibe. When we've played this game, sometimes, and it's still fun if it happens, but sometimes someone will make like a really bad bid early on, and then all of a sudden somebody has just like $300 or $400 more dollars, and they're just like, oh god, they've just won the game like turn one. Have you ever experienced that?
No, I haven't yet. I'm still kind of dipping my toe into this one, but Yeah, I can certainly see that happening.
Sometimes somebody will misread something and you're just like, oh my gosh, what's happened? It's so funny.
Okay, cool.
Great. So the second game that I've been playing, we recently got the 2 new packs for Marvel Champions in. Marvel Champions, one of my favorite games, a fantastic cooperative LCG. I think that's the way to do this model because it's really at your leisure on the packs that you buy. And these 2 new packs are for the Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is Gamora and Star-Lord. And my goodness, they are some of the most fun characters that have come out in a while, specifically Star-Lord. Holy cow. So Gamora, we'll talk about Gamora. She is very flexible. She does the 2 main things really well. So she thwarts and she kills real well. So she's a one-woman army, amazing. But Star-Lord is incredible because he fundamentally changes the way you play. So have you played Marvel Champions at all? Are you familiar with the structure, Dan?
I've only played the Lord of the Rings version. I haven't played this one at all, but I would be certainly up for trying this one.
So Marvel Champions has a structure where on your turn, you're going to take a hero phase, play all your stuff, and then an enemy phase happens. They're going to flip out a bad card. It's going to happen. Terrible things are going to happen. And then the villain's going to attack, all this stuff. But the main thing is that the deck is going to deal you encounter cards. And these are terrible. You don't want to see these because generally they're more minions. They're awful events. They could be extremely detrimental. Star-Lord's effect is you can play a bunch of really powerful cards for free, but if you do, you deal yourself an encounter card every time. So you are playing encounter cards at yourself, and that's terrifying because you're like, oh, it could be anything, and you're not really sure what to expect. But you're taking like future loans, right? You're saying, okay, I'll take a bad thing, but I can play this really busted thing. And it's so interesting because you're allowed to play really powerful cards that you normally wouldn't be able to in any deck because you're able to consistently play them for free. And then he has these other really cool concepts that are stronger the more encounter cards that are in front of you. So yeah, you're going to probably take like 100 damage on your next turn and summon 20 minions, and oh my gosh, you're going to be completely overwhelmed. But that's next turn. You don't even need to worry about that. And it's so fun because you're Star-Lord. You're running frantically through space, doing what. It's so good. I love the way this works. Against certain villains, there's no way you're going to win because their encounter cards are so terrible. But with other villains, you can tank 20 encounter cards. No big deal. It's hilarious. I love it. I love it.
Okay, cool. One thing I've heard from more than one almost personality, I suppose, is that the difficulty of Champions is ramping up massively. Is that the case?
So it's really interesting. The latest campaign box, the Galaxy's Most Wanted, was really difficult. Like most challenging thing I've ever seen in the system as a whole. But I think that's really healthy for the game because some of the heroes that are in the game are really strong. So like Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and probably now Star-Lord, honestly, are the strongest characters. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts there. Like they just have consistency, they have power. So having bosses that can match that power level is really cool because you're able to actually build decks that can go toe-to-toe with these and not feel like you're just steamrolling the game, which I think is really helpful. And it's not like every single thing is difficult in these new boxes. There are some easier missions. So it's not like it's completely unbeatable.
Okay, fair enough. I kind of got the vibe that it was almost making it a bit of a niche and maybe acting as a bit of an obstacle, bringing new people into the game. But sounds like it's kind of goes hand in hand, and the power is just constantly rising, and you've got the cards to counteract that, I suppose. But yeah, cool. Sounds like this game is still going strong and still immensely popular. Okay, so the next game I've played is a game that has received some very mixed reviews. This is a game called Friticular. Now, Friticular, this is a game that it was obviously successful on Kickstarter a couple of years ago now. I got it fulfilled maybe a couple of weeks ago. See, averaging at about 6.7 here, and I think that's even gone up since the last time I've seen this. So Giovanni Fiore, a designer I don't know, the co-designer Virginio Gili, who is known for making games such as Lorenzo Il Magnifico, Grand Austria Hotel, amongst other things, and he's one of my absolute favorite designers. So I was really quite skeptical because I got this game a bit later than other players, and when I got to the table I was thinking, oh god, this is going to be a train wreck. I'm going to be wasted money here. However, I was so glad that I actually did get this to the table quickly because I was so impressed with this game, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. So this is a Euro-style game, and with some kind of commodity speculation as you're collecting resources, which in this case is fruit, and then you're converting that fruit into different jams and trying to sell them for profit. However, there are some really interesting and unique mechanisms in this game that I've never ever seen before. For example, every turn, you are selecting one of these action cards, which not only determines the initiative in which you're playing things. So, if you play the best card, or the lowest card, you go first and get the best worker placement spots. But also it determines how many actions you're getting altogether. So, for example, it would say, you get 4 actions, and also there's 2 types of workers. You've got workers and you've got farmers, and they have different specialities depending on the different spots they go to. So this creates some pretty interesting depth there, because you might say, I want to go first, but annoyingly this card, the first worker is a farmer, and I don't want it to be the farmer, I want it to be the other guy. So I'm hoping that this player doesn't go to this spot so I can get it, which is really interesting. And on top of all that, there's this kind of resource market, I suppose, or this place where you can go and take different player powers and boosts you can get, and all those actions are extremely powerful, and you pretty much want them all. All these different abilities, and I really love it when games introduce tiles or cards to upgrade your ability throughout, but they're all interesting. You want all of them, and this game has that in spades. And it takes about an hour to play. Really simple rule set, but with some really almost hidden depth in this one. I think the reason that this one hasn't received the best kind of praise going into it is because there are some quite significant production issues. Number one, as you can see, all these different resources are these kind of fruit. They all rounded, they all kind of roll everywhere. That are quite hard to kind of keep control of on the board altogether. But that I could overlook that. However, there were some other issues as well in terms of these. Let's see if I can find a picture somewhere. The actual trees, which are kind of your spots you go to gather your different fruits. The cardboard stock is really low, and when you punch them out of the actual punch board, they all rip and tear, making it a bit annoying because before you've even played it, it's been damaged. And additionally, the resources themselves are printed on a vertical surface, so you can't actually see them very clearly depending on the board layout. But production issues aside, and perhaps I put less investment in production than other players do, I thought the gameplay was rock solid and was certainly up to par for a Virginia GD game. So I was really happy with it, and I think it's a good example of trusting your own instincts and not following what the herd think.
Totally makes sense. I like your impressions on the game as a whole. It's definitely one that I want to give a try. I like the look of it. It reminds me of, honestly, maybe a prettier version of Food Chain Magnet, just the art itself. But the game looks cool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I love the colors.
It's a very good game, and you know what? The first game I played this was just a 2-player game with my brother, who's a gamer. We both really enjoyed it. And just because of the look of it, my girlfriend said, "Oh, I want to try that because this is the kind of theme that she would like." And she really enjoyed it as well. And I'd never, ever normally play a game of this depth with my girlfriend. And she had a great time with it. So I think that just goes to show how good the game is and how much an inviting theme can do to give a game legs. So again, another game that I was really happy with. So I've had a good set of game days this since the last episode.
Awesome. Yeah, enjoying. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Awesome. So the next game that I want to talk about is a recently delivered Kickstarter. This is Agropolis. So I've been delving into all of the button shy games recently. So Sprawlopolis, Circle the Wagons, and then most recently Agropolis. So Agropolis is basically just a reskinned version of Sprawlopolis. It's a game where you're going to be putting these cards in front of you, and you can overlap some cards, but ultimately you're going to be building a city, and in this case a farm, and you're trying to match specific colors. And these colors are all based on objectives that are going to be revealed. So it's a really cool system. You have 18 cards. You'll shuffle them up, and you'll take 3 of those cards, put them face up, and they have objectives on the back. So those objectives are how you're going to score in addition to areas based on the colors. And you're just trying to make the most points while trying to avoid negative points by having roads connect to nowhere, kind of similar to games like Railroad Inc. So you have lots of these things that you're thinking every time you play a card, but the gameplay is fast and smooth. Now, this game is very similar to Sprawlopolis. It plays basically exactly the same way. However, this one adds farm animals including pens. So there's like pigs and cows and all this stuff. And all it does is make the scoring more interesting and more dynamic, which is great. I mean, I think that's exactly what a retheme and a reskin is going to do. And the coolest thing about this is it has a way that you can combine this with the original Sprawlopolis. So now you have a mix of the suburbs with the farms. And I think that's really fun. So this has been great. I've had a great time with this. And the cooperative version of this is actually good. I enjoy both versions, the solo and co-op. So good stuff.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm still waiting for we're still waiting for our copy of this one. So hopefully by the next episode, I should be able to share my thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. It's a good one. And I like the artwork. It's a really like mellow style. Looks good.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I think the last game I'm going to talk about this episode is the game that I enjoyed the most out of all of them, which is saying a lot because all the other games I've really enjoyed. This one is a game that, again, going back to the 90s when this one first came out, this is a game called Chinatown. Now, Chinatown is, again, it came out in 1999, I think, initially. So, and it's still pretty well regarded, I think, 7.3 on average there. This one is a very low rule set, almost economic and negotiation style game, as you are essentially trying to control different regions in Chinatown, trying to put your shops in these regions in order to gain the most profit by doing so. Because the more of similar shops or the same shops that you line up together, you're going to get amplified bonuses and generate more money at the end of the round. But what I really love about this game is how it facilitates the negotiation aspect of this. Because at the start of the round, you're going to draw a number of cards, which is going to relate to these different numbers pre-printed on the board. And then you're going to basically put these discs down to claim that they're yours, at least temporarily yours. And then once everybody's done that, you're going to draw these different shop tiles. And before you start actually laying these shop tiles down onto the board, you can literally choose to trade anything. So you could trade, you can obviously pay money to get the shop off somebody else. You can choose to trade shop for shop. You can choose to trade a shop and some money for a particular location on the board. And the combos and things that you can do by mixing these huge negotiations are so fascinating. You can strike some amazing deals. You can take some speculative things and try to extort money out of other people by thinking, you know what? My location is right in the center of all of your different restaurants, and you're going to need this one to get a full-size restaurant. And you're going to have to pay me some big bucks, in order to get that off me. And I just love the freedom that this game implements. It's absolutely brilliant. I was blown away with it. Again, I played this with my girlfriend. I've even played it with my mum, and they both thought it was amazing. So this one got my highest acclaim in terms of an Elite Shield. I love it. This is going to be a surefire classic in my collection, and I think this borders on that being an essential kind of game. I think it's amazing.
I saw your review of this recently, and you seem thrilled with it. So I'm really happy that it's accessible to all sorts of people too. That's amazing. I think that kind of goes to say that this might be the choice over things like Sidereal Confluence or other negotiation games. Have you tried any of those larger scale negotiation games?
I haven't. Actually, most negotiation style games I've played Colosseum, which has a good negotiation aspect to it, and Tifa Tashin. That's a really good negotiation game, but most of them seem to be on the smaller scale, like those are. And hi, Tim, by the way, thanks for joining us. And it sounds like Tim's keen on trying to down as well.
Excellent. Well, if you do like this style, I would honestly give Sidereal Confluence a try. It's a little bit more meaty negotiation as well. Yeah. It's a little weird to get it first, but they just did a revised edition where they updated the art and everything. So it is, I think, a bit more smooth of a process now. So really cool. But this looks great. This is one that I really want to give a try.
Yeah, strongly recommend this one.
Awesome. All right, and the last game that I want to talk about is one that I kind of briefly previewed last time, and this is going to be Chronicles of Dragonor. So I've actually been able to dive into the game. I've had about 10 plays of it, and this is this huge, sprawling campaign, and this is, as you'll probably see next episode, this is getting a lot of positive buzz. Like, everybody's loving this game, including myself. I enjoyed it so much that I actually did a review on it, an organizing video for it, and I did a how to play, so my first how to play on the channel, which is wild. Somebody needed to do it. It's kind of what I do as part of SideGame LLC is, teach and make sure games are approachable. And I thought that this was one that needed to happen. And it's a game that I'm really enjoying. The character customization is super fun. And I've loved it. Been picking all sorts of different characters and trying them out. One of my most favorite characters that I've been using is actually the one I featured on the How to Play, Arcanos. He's this really frail magician, but he's just fire all the time. So you're dealing with all of these fire tokens. And one of his upgrades that you can get is you can make it so that you can burn things that are immune to fire, which is super funny because you have all these like molten creatures, but you're just still able to fireball them. It's so funny. So I love stuff like that, being able to kind of modify the rules as you play. And the amount of choice is crazy in this game. So I really enjoy it. I love the cube action system. I love the way that you are leveling up from mission to mission. It's super fast, super easy, and it's something that I've been really enjoying playing through. So love this. It's a fantastic system, and I'm excited to see what they put out next.
Okay, cool. How has the massive amount of stuff, has that been a hurdle to get to the table? Or
luckily, everything is organized in game trays. So really, the biggest nuisance is just the fact that there's so many boxes, and that's been the biggest hurdles. Honestly, just like being able to bring that many boxes places. So that's the biggest hurdle, honestly. But other than that, it's worked out well. I've got an organization solution that I am happy with. After playing it a couple times, I'm able to kind of see what's actually used, which is super helpful when doing those organizing videos because you can say, okay, this is actually what you need each game, and now I've consolidated trays so I could be like, okay, this is good for this, and boom, boom, boom. The setup is pretty quick now, which is nice.
Cool, great. Just a quick hello to Thomas. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us from Slovakia. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Okay, cool. I think that's us done with games we played this since the last episode at least. What would you give your game of the month to, Mackenzie, if you had to?
Ooh. I'm going to have to give it to Chronicles of Dragonor. I've just had a blast with it. I've really enjoyed the system, and it's one that I liked so much I created additional content that I normally wouldn't for. So it's one that I've been having a blast with, and I'm honestly really excited to jump back into it. Okay,
great. Okie dokie. So we are going to go on to the next segment, and we're going to be talking about some crowdfunding. I'm only going to talk about one game each. Mine's going to be very brief. So, Mackenzie, if you want to lead the way.
Sure, I can start this one off. This one actually was a little bit difficult for me because actually in the last couple of days, I've decided to do some crowdfunding. So this one in particular, though, is one that I was really on the fence for, and this is called Hoplomachus Victorum. So I am a huge fan of chip theory games. Cloudspire and Too Many Bones are some of my favorites. I'm really excited for Burn Cycle. And Hoplomachus Victorum is a redone version and a brand new version of Hoplomachus, which is their gladiatorial style game. So I actually got rid of the original Hoplomachus because it honestly, Too Many Bones replaced it for me. It was very similar in the way it worked, and Hoplomachus, the original, was kind of rudimentary with its AI, and it was not that exciting. It was kind of just going through the motions. The bag building was interesting, but the way the enemies worked was not that exciting, in my opinion. That being said, Hoplomachus Victorum, they basically have set aside and said, hey, we understand these are the issues with the original. We need to make it better. We need to make it up to snuff. And that's what they've done. So Hoplomachus Victorum introduces a solo-only version of the game where you're going to be going on this grand adventure, going to build up your army of gladiators, taking out these giant creatures, and eventually taking out this Primus. So super cool. It's a great adventure. But the coolest thing is that this is compatible with the new version of Hoplomachus. They have done a Hoplomachus remastered where they've gone back and updated everything. So I'm kind of happy that I've gotten rid of everything now because I can now get this new version where they've changed the rules, they've streamlined things, they've made the production better, and everything is cross-compatible with the new Victorum. So these new units in Victorum you can use in the new Hoplomachus version. And the fact that there's so many different ways to play this. You can play the solo, you can play the cooperative, you can play head-to-head combat. There's so many options, and the new art style is wonderful. It's up to snuff with the Chip Theory Games motto, which is wonderful. I can't wait to dive into this one, and it's one that I didn't think that I was going to be getting, but after looking at it and looking at the gameplay and looking at the component quality and all the updates and changes and the decisions they've made, this is one that I am now super, super excited for. So there's only like 2 days left. If you have a chance, take a look at it because it does look incredible.
Okay, yeah, sounds like a really cool theme, actually. I've never actually played any chip theory games, but looking at that, it looks quite impressive. And again, I really like the theme. Okay, so the game I'm going to be talking about is, as I said, just briefly, because I haven't actually backed this one. I'm very much on the fence of doing so. This is a game called Mosaic, a story of civilization. So I suppose the main thing that has intrigued me about this one is because I like the idea of a civilization building game. I'm still kind of looking for the one for me, if that makes sense. I've had some relative success with Through the Ages. I do really like that game. However, I found it quite hard to get to the table. It's quite a big teach. Takes quite a long time if you're playing with more than 2 players. However, this one is designed by Glenn Drover. I don't know a tremendous amount about Glenn Drover. However, from the gist of things, it sounds like this game is pretty much streamlined as well as it can, but still maintain all the tropes that you would want from a civilization building game. You know, increasing your technology or your production, keeping people happy, all that kind of thing. Your population, and it seems like it's boiled down into some very simple actions, such as like acquiring cars to get you new technology, and all these kind of things. I suppose the thing that's really almost held me back is because, number one, there's 2 versions of the game. There's a deluxe version where you're going to get everything but plastic miniatures. You know, what could just be a tile is now a plastic miniature, and that seems quite expensive to go down that route. So I think I'd probably lean away from that. But alternatively, you know, you're just going to get the tiles and things, but and just tokens instead of miniatures, for example. But I'm still really intrigued. I am on the fence about it, and I'm thinking, you know, do I just wait for retail on this one? Because again, I'm not going to be after all the plastic bits anyway, and I could probably get this on, you know, for a lot better price should it go to retail. But the game itself looks really strong. Again, I like the way how streamlined it seems, and I think it seems like a lot easier to teach and will be a lot easier to get to the table than a lot of other games of this kind of vein. So again, in 2 minds about it, but who knows? I may back and I may not. So
I think I think you have a good idea here. As you've seen with Glenn Drover's other games recently, like Lizard Wizard and Raccoon Tycoon, those become Barnes & Noble exclusives, or you can definitely get them on the secondhand market if you want at a significantly discounted price. So if you're not going for those extra bits, I think you're totally making the right call here. But this game looks wonderful. This is one that you actually brought up, and I was like, man, I got to go check this one out because it looks good. It's got a similar play style of like Terraforming Mars. We're going to be putting cards in front of you to activate abilities and get icons, and it's got that quick action, those quick turns. So I think it's really cool. Like you said, it's going to be way easier to teach than something like Through the Ages, and a lot more accessible. And it looks good. I can see why you're on the fence on this one.
Yeah, it does seem good, but just that price point is just. Eesh. Okie dokie. Say hi, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us. He says he has the 92 edition of Modern Art with German rules only and no box anymore, and it's still great. Yeah, it's a solid game. It's very streamlined. You know, I think it's got that kind of pureness that's going to stand the test of time, and obviously it has if you've got the 92 edition. Jonathan. Okay, so I think we are done with our crowdfunding. So we are going to go on just to a couple of very brief news items here, one being probably more significant than other, or depending on if you're a fan of this game, that is. So the thing that I'm going to be talking about is that a new expansion has been announced for one of my favorite games, and I believe it's one of your favorite games as well, Mackenzie.
Yes.
Is that right?
I love this game.
Yeah.
This game is so good. I'm so excited. Tell them the news.
Okay, so a new expansion is going to be coming out for Maracaibo. So Maracaibo, an amazing Alexander Pfister design. I call it a kitchen sink kind of design that has everything you'd want from a Euro game in one game. And this one has, first of all, it's modular, so there's going to be lots of different things here. There's very limited detail about this game or this expansion at the moment. However, there is some suggestion that, well, in fact, there is going to be a cooperative element to this game, where I think you're essentially trying to drive out the different nations, I suppose, from invading the Caribbean in the first place. that's pretty much all I know about it. But if the expansion's coming out to one of your favorite games, then I'm going to be buying it. Simple as that.
It's super cool. A couple other things it adds are unique ship boards. So each player will have their own special upgraded board, which is awesome. More variety is always welcome. The other cool thing that it's going to be adding is a whole new campaign. So once you finish that initial deck, like we've been playing this game for about a year and a half now, so we finished that initial deck already and been playing the with those like solo one-off scenarios. But it has a whole new deck of campaign cards, which is exciting because now you have a way to introduce all of those modules piece by piece. So really excited. I love Maracaibo. This is one that I'll always play. Super excited. Probably going to play it tomorrow, actually. So, I'm so excited. And I totally agree with Tim. Did you see his comment there? He says he'd almost think there's no room left in the game for expansions. But there you go. Exactly. I totally agree with you. Oh, it's going to be awesome.
But that didn't occur to me, what you just said there about the modules being introduced gradually through the campaign. I love that idea, and I think that's going to be really exciting. So yeah, that's actually just excited me even more. So there we go. New expansion for Maracaibo coming out, and that's a very happy Dan and a very happy Mackenzie. So.
All right. So the next news that we're talking about is one that is pretty big news in general, specifically for getting board games noticed and out there. This is the nominations for the Spiel des Jahres. So we're just going to take a look at the 3 different categories here, probably 2 more than the kids category. So it's broke up into those 3 categories. We've got the Kinderspiel des Jahres, which is for the advanced strategy game of the year. We got the Spiel des Jahres, which is like for the family game, and then the Kinderspiel, which is for the kids. So right off the bat, let's take a look at the normal Spiel des Jahres here. Dan, you got the list for me?
Yeah, it's just loading up now.
All right. So for the Spiel des Jahres, the basic here, we have 2 games that I haven't played and 1 that I have played. And the reason for some of these is they just aren't available in the US yet. So the first one is going to be Robin Hood, The Adventures of Robin Hood by Cosmos. And that's going to be the first nomination here. This has this really cool feature where you have this book that is going to have tiles that you pull out, which is really fascinating. It reminds me of like one of those scratch-off games. Really cool. And then up next is one that I love, and I think will probably win just because it's sweeping everything in its light year, is Micro Macro Crime City. And then lastly, we have Zombie Teens, which is a tiny legacy game that's a sequel to Zombie Kids, which is a zombie fighting game that's set for families. So a specific small rule set, adding new stuff as you play. So really interesting here. Dan, do you want to talk? Have you played any of these or heard any good news?
I've not played any of these actually, but again, I'm waiting in the long queue to get my hands on Micro Macro. And as you said, because of the hype about this one, I think it's going to be a no-brainer about this one taking the award. I think so too. Yeah.
Also, they just announced a expansion for Macro Micro, so it's a standalone, which is really cool. And then up next, we have the Spiel des Jahres, the Kinderspiel. So these are a bit more strategic. And man, there's a big variety here. So you have the Fantasy Realms card game, super light card game, but really thinky, really fun. You have Lost Ruins of Arnak, which just recently won the Golden Geek for Best Medium Game. And then you have Paleo, the cooperative card game. So I think all these are great choices. This week, actually, I've been playing a lot of all 3 of these, which is really cool. Paleo is one that I have been enjoying. People I've played it with, they've said that this is more of like a approachable version of a theme like Robinson Crusoe, where you're surviving and building items. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't make that comparison at first, but it does share a lot of the same mechanics. You're fighting off creatures, you're getting tools and items, but in a much quicker, much more involved package. So I was really surprised how similar those themes kind of are. It was really interesting. And then really been enjoying Arnak, and Fantasy Realms is one of my favorite fillers. So I enjoy these. These are great choices. Anything to say on these? Is Lost Ruins of Arnak still you're still a little timid about calling it Game of the Year?
Well, in terms of how well it's done, I can't, I certainly can't criticize it for that. The only thing I'm really surprised about is how Fantasy Realms has fit into this category. I would say that comfortably fit into the first category. I wouldn't call it an advanced or the kind of gamer's game. It seems quite light for that category, in my opinion, personally. So I think as the years are going by, this is getting lighter and lighter in general. At least from my perspective. I mean, do you not think this would fit better into the general Spiel des Jahres?
I'm not sure, honestly, because last year the crew was in Kinderspiel des Jahres, yes? So
Yeah.
I feel that they are about the same weight, honestly, like the crew in Fantasy Realms. So I think it's appropriate, specifically because in Fantasy Realms there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of potential combos, and there is
Yeah.
huge amounts of variant scoring. But I think you are totally right. As a whole, these are getting significantly lighter. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Okay. Any foresight on who you think is going to win?
I'm probably going to say that Arnak's going to take it. I think Arnak is just most popular in general. I think it's got it in the bag. And then same thing with Micro Macro. It's just well received across the board. And I think Micro Macro is just the most approachable, being supremely language independent, all the engagement of everybody being able to access it at the same time. I think it's huge.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, definitely Micro Macro and Lost Ruins of Arnak. At least our picks. Okay. So that concludes the news. We're going to go on to one of our favorite segments, which is component appreciation. So this is where we're going to talk about a particular card, just a component. It could be anything at all related to a game we've played and something that we like about that particular component. So, Mackenzie, did you want to start with this one? Or?
Sure, I can start this one off. So the component I went with is not a card, which is usually what I pick because I just really like card games. This one is super out there. This is a box. A box, you say? A box. So in this game, you are going to be playing... it's called Ice Cool. That's the game. You're going to be playing as these delinquent penguins that are skipping class. And when you skip class, you're going to have all sorts of fish that you're trying to catch. So you skip class, you get your fish, and then get out of there. But the way you're going to be doing this is flicking your fish. So you have these weird weebly wobbly fish that you're going to be hitting their bases, and they're going to be dodging around on this giant game board. But the board is actually constructed from the game box itself. If you see the sides on there have numbers that determines the size of the box, the larger the number, the larger the box, and you're actually going to stack them inside of one another. Dan, I've got a second picture there that shows how they kind of fit together. There you go. So they're all in here, and you can just see how it's so well done. They bring this gigantic board, this gigantic game into this single box by organizing it and constructing it so well. I was so excited to see that it was implemented so well. And the best part is, if you have the base game and Ice Cool 2, you can actually combine the boxes and make this super gigantic ring. And this has been a hit. So this is a great side game in my opinion. Side games are the token that we call games that are great for conventions and bringing people into the hobby. And these are just huge displays and fun things for people to join in. And Ice Cool has been a hit with basically anybody I've taught it to. It's light, it's fast, it's fun. It's something that you progressively get better at as you play. And it's just one that I find really enjoyable. So I love the boxes, how they make up these awesome arenas in Ice Cool. Have you had the privilege of playing this game?
I have played this game, a couple of years ago, and I completely agree about that kind of convention vibe because despite being loads of games out on the, this is when I went to a game club a couple of years ago, loads of games being set up, everybody went straight to Ice Cool and wanted to play it. I will say, I think it's a bit of a novelty. I think once you played it, that fun factor does diminish very quickly. But I'm still glad I played it. I had a good time with it, and certainly the box design is clever. So definitely a good choice, and I think more games are starting to use boxes in kind of weird and wonderful ways, and why not? Because it's all real estate and can be used as part of the game.
And Tim agrees with me here. He really likes when the boxes are incorporated here. So like an exit, the Egypt one, where you're building the pyramid. Yes, totally agree. I think if you've got it, go for it. Awesome.
Yeah, Tim also made a comment about the spill de jars, about, is it the game's getting lighter or is it just our tolerance getting higher? Who knows? I think maybe a bit of both. So thanks for that, Tim. And Thomas has said Great Western Trail 2nd edition plus Maracaibo expansion was hints about a new re-theme for Mombasa. Okay, yeah. Interesting to see Mombasa re-theme. I mean, I don't see what's wrong with the original one, but I really liked Mombasa, and I know it's hard to get hold of now. But all solid games. Okay, so the component that I'm going to be talking about is from a party game called Wavelength. Now, Wavelength is a party game that came out last year, I believe, after a Kickstarter campaign. And this whole contraption is basically the game. This is quite a unique, or completely unique concept, where you basically, somebody's in the hot seat and they're given two different kind of polar opposite categories. So here you can see you've got hot and cold. And then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of put this white bar across the shield here, and it will basically block where this almost gauge is here, I suppose. And you'd roll this white knobbly bobbly bit around the outside, and that will completely change where on the spectrum these 2, 3, and 4 are. And when this is covered, you are supposed to be coming up with a clue to help your teammates decipher whereabouts on the spectrum your word is. So, you know, with one side being hot, one side being cold, as you can see here, it's slightly on the cold side. So you'd be trying to give a clue to depict exactly where that 4 is by coming up with a word. So you want something that's slightly cold but not too cold, so they don't go too far. But what I really love about this component is just the way it works, and it's very visually very easy to see everything that you need to see. It just comes together wonderfully, and it's just a big chunky plastic piece where, yeah, this covers up nicely. The little gauge, the little red knobbly bit, or the knob where the other players choose where they're going to select, is very tactile, and it just does what it's supposed to do. And I love it when things do what they're supposed to do and they work well. So I thought this was a great component, a great little contraption that just did what it's supposed to do.
Great choice, Dan. I love this thing, and I love that it doesn't like jostle. So you can, that red thing is going to stay where it stays, and it feels great. It's super satisfying to pull the screen off. And this is one of my favorite productions ever, actually, because you simply open the box and you're ready. It's so nice. I love this. This is great.
Yeah. As you said, yeah, very rigid thing, and it's just very satisfying, as you said. So yeah, those are our 2 component choices. Bit different approaches there, but no, good nonetheless. So that's component appreciation. So next up, we're going to go into a segment called This or That. So this is where we choose 2 things kind of in the same stratosphere, really, and we're going to pair them off against each other and decide which one we think's better. We give our own opinions, and then we put a poll out there to the to our subscribers, and they vote and see what they think is the better of the 2. So the last show we did Exit versus Unlock, and the vote, well, we both voted for Exit, and surprisingly enough, the viewers disagreed with us, so they actually went for Unlock. So I'll just get the tab up if I can.
Read these comments. Explain yourself, people.
Okay, what have we got here? Okay, so yeah, we've got Exit versus Unlock here. So we were both unanimously on Exit, and it's split 60-40 in the favour of Unlock, which is massively surprising for me. Comments being from Tim. Tim, very regular commenter. I said it was a tough call. He actually likes Unlock, very approachable, fun to play, and provides a challenge, and the app does a good job. Yeah, it does do a good job with the admin. That is more than acceptable. But his partner does prefer the challenge of Exit. So yeah, that's pretty much aligned with the comments that we made last week. Exit being a slightly more gamery style game, I suppose, but Unlock being more accessible with more use of an app. So I can completely see the rival camps in terms of who prefers what. But I think we both agreed that the puzzles themselves we found a lot more enjoyable with Unlock.
And I think Mike there agrees with us there. He says that the Exit has superior puzzles and they feel individual, which I totally agree. Like, they stand out. You get a puzzle in Exit and you're like, that was clever. Well done.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Yeah, completely agree with Crossy there. Yeah, no doubt that we're all in the Exit camp. But okay, fair enough. Yeah, I was surprised to see that, but always interesting to get different perspectives and whose opinion is what. So yeah, 60-40 split, close, and at some points it was like 48 to 52, so it was very close as the weeks went by, but ended up being quite considerably in the favour of Unlock. And Tim just commented that it was a hard decision to make, and yeah, I get that. I'm
glad that people do like the Unlock games, because I think it's just going to make room for more innovation, right? If people like it and people keep buying it, that just means we're going to get better, more refined versions of this, or more interesting puzzles, more interesting ways to use the app. So I'm excited either way, because I do like the escape room style games.
Yeah, okay, so that kind of concludes last week. So this week we're going to be talking about, I suppose, one of the go-to things that people talk about this is like, you get your Messi versus your Ronaldos, you get your Batman versus the Joker.
Oh my gosh.
The board game equivalent.
What? Okay.
The board game equivalent is Century Spice Road versus Splendor. Now, these are two very simple engine building style games. I actually happen to both like both of these, and a lot of people always say that when Spice Road came out, it completely killed Splendor. I disagree with that statement completely.
Yeah, that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, is Splendor Killer, but I think that just shows that Splendor is such a good game that people are after it. But yes, I've definitely heard that term thrown around.
Yeah, so I actually find this one a really hard decision to make, because I think that Spice Road has some really interesting card play. I mean, I do like that kind of Concordia style system, as you're playing through your cards in a certain order, have to play another card to pick them all back up, converting cubes into other cubes, etc., trying to fulfill contracts. But I think the simplicity of Splendor shines through a bit better and resonates with me in that terms. But the gamer side of me prefers Spice Road. So, it's a really difficult decision to make. But if I think I had to choose between the two, I think I would just about go for Spice Road, just because I think it's got a little bit more legs. What about your thoughts?
So I actually disagree with you on this one. This is one that I'm going to go with for Splendor. So I like both games a lot. I really enjoy it. But Splendor here, I think, is not only accessible, but I feel that it is a bit more balanced and strategic. When I play Spice Road, sometimes a card will come out that you just can't pay for, or somebody else is able to grab, and that can kind of steamroll the whole game. But with Splendor, the board is set. You can take suboptimal plays in order to set up yourself in the future and have stronger turns then. With the reserve mechanic, you've got clear set out strategy and goals that are in the nobles, as well as you have 5 different expansions that you can incorporate that come from Cities of Splendor that can add variance and legs to a game. So I think that there are some good options, but I do really enjoy Century Spice Road as well. So no discredit on this game, but if I were to grab one, I would probably grab Splendor over Spice Road.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you asked me the same question on a different day, I might go for Splendor. Yeah, it really is, a hair's width in this one. And completely see both sides of the argument. Tim just said, oh no, a real decision now. So he's obviously finding it difficult to make that decision as well. So we'll put the poll up in a day or two, and hopefully, it'll be interesting to see what the result is and get a final answer on which one is better. Okay, so that concludes this or that. So we're going to go straight into the next segment, which is mechanism appreciation. So Mackenzie, do you want to share your mechanism appreciation of the episode?
Sure, absolutely. Super excited. So I really enjoy games where you have progressive strength as you play. So you're getting new abilities, new powers, and the game I'm talking about today is Cthulhu Death May Die, specifically the Insanity track for Cthulhu Death May Die. In this game, you play as an investigator in an Arkham-esque world where you are going to be taking down an old one. And when you do this, you're going to get more and more insane as you experience and interact with the evil beings that are here. So your job, once again, is to increase your power level, but when you do, you go a little bit insane. At the start of the game, you're going to get dealt an insanity card, and these cards are going to have something specific to you. You might be claustrophobic, you might be a pyromaniac, and every time you reach the threshold on this insanity track, you're going to trigger your personal insanity. If you're that pyromaniac, you're going to put a fire token on the board and burn everything around you. If you are if you have codependency, you'll teleport to the other person on the board because you just can't handle being alone. It's so interesting because these insanities are not only negatives, but you can actually turn them into positives. If you're a pyromaniac and you drop a fire token into a room of enemies, nice. If you were in a really bad position and all of a sudden you get teleported out of there, nice. You can really plan on triggering these insanities, but sometimes they do turn out terribly, and that's a great kind of balance to that mechanic. In addition, the more insane you get, the stronger you become. Every time you go insane, you're not only going to trigger your insanity, but you also get more dice for future actions. You get an upgrade on an ability of your choice, so you can increase your toughness, your own special personalized ability based on the character you chose, and there's just so many cool choices on this track. But the kicker here is, yes, the more insane you get, the stronger you get. But if you go too insane, you die. So it's it's this cool balance of knowing when to push, when to go crazy, but also knowing when to hold yourself in reserve so that you're not going to go completely insane, because your team needs you, because heck, you're super strong because you're so insane, but the more insane you get, the more fragile you become. So I really love this mechanic. I love how you're increasing over time, and you can really just push yourself forward into this insanity. So I really enjoy that insanity track in Cthulhu Death May Die.
Oh, sounds interesting.
Oh, it's great.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a game that doesn't get too much press, actually. One that I think is a bit of a gem out there that not many people play. This is a game called Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare is a fairly lightweight Euro game that has a really interesting theme. I really like this idea of putting on this this play where you're trying to not only put on the plays themselves by climbing up these different tracks, but you're also trying to get your actors into the best costumes. You're trying to make the best stage. So the theme itself, I think, is really cool. But the thing I took away from Shakespeare is one of the core mechanisms, which is this almost action bidding mechanism. Because in this game, generally, I really like games that put a lot of emphasis on going first on things. So you want to be the first player to be able to take the best worker placement spots or action spots, for example. And Shakespeare, I think, is one of the best examples of that. Because basically, before anything even gets started, you are going to have 5 action tokens, I suppose, that you can potentially use in the following round. But in order to go first, you want to be the player who's bid the fewest actions. So if you want to go first, you're desperate to get the particular actor that you want to join your array of actors, then you might say, you know what, I've got a potential 5 options here, 5 actions, but you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice 3 of them. So I'll just bid for 2 to make sure I really get the card that I want. So I absolutely think that is brilliant. It adds a real tension to this one where, you might think that my opponent really wants that action because he's going to bid 3, so I'm going to go 2. And in the end, he didn't care at all, and he ended up putting all 5 of his actions down. So I think this is one of the coolest mechanisms, and I'd love to see this one used in a more involved game. And this is a really solid game anyway, but something with a bit more meat on its bones. And just that core mechanism is absolutely fascinating, and it adds a real visceral tension to every single round that you play. And in addition to this one, the expansion adds another element to it, or another wrinkle, where the actions that you end up sacrificing actually kind of count towards different actions you can take. So again, where you're going to put these actions, where you're going to allocate them, which ones you're going to sacrifice to go first, and it all just comes together wonderfully. And a really great game.
I love the theming on this as well, because the expansion's backstage, right? So the people that you aren't putting out get to do the backstage stuff, and I think is really neat. I think that's clever mechanics-wise. That's fun.
Yeah, it's so good, and I'm surprised nothing else really uses it. So Tim here has put the connection between theme and gameplay is pretty good in Shakespeare. Yes, it is. I love to see fresh ideas, especially when they're used in Euro games. And Shakespeare does a great job of that. Getting the best costumes to get the best prestige and things. I love that. And he said it makes it really attractive to him, but he's found it hard to find. Yeah, it is a very hard game to get hold of, and hopefully one day it will be more widely accessible. But again, that core mechanism is what I really take away from Shakespeare. Okay, so let's move on then, and we're going to go on to the random game. So, so this is a segment where we literally just use the Board Game Geek randomizer and just talk about what we end up with. So it could be something completely unheard of. It could be something that's, something really popular. Who knows? So let's go for it.
Oh boy, here we go. What do you think? Popular game or totally random?
Totally random. No
Let's
doubt.
do it. Oh, I hope we get another Uno.
Okay, let's see what we get.
Please be another Uno clone. Come on. I'm holding out for it.
Here we go.
Okay.
Mandalas from 2017, 2 to 6 players, and this one has only 4 ratings on it. So again, another game that nobody knows about. Okay,
it's pretty though. Look at that.
It looks quite.
Tell the truth, Dan. Tell the truth. Tell me how you feel.
Okie dokie. Let's read the little synopsis here. So we've got a board game in which each player will form his own mandala using chips with 3 original geometric designs and 4 sets of colors to combine them into thousands of unique figures, scoring points, adding points for each similarity between adjacent pieces. So it's a pattern building style game where who knows how it actually plays. So let's have a look at some pictures here.
Okay.
Initial thoughts?
So initial thoughts, I actually think this looks pretty cool. It's really pretty. I like the segments. I like how they're differently shaped. I love that they kind of slot in together really well. Yeah, it's Blair Bear asks if that's pie. If it would, that'd be a great way to play this game with like a pie version. Love it. It looks like a broken Simon Says game. Love it, Blair Bear. That's wonderful. That's the content I come for. That's awesome. It looks good. It looks like this game isn't printed in English, so it looks like a Spanish copy of a game. So I'm not sure exactly how translation will work on this. But I think so far it looks like an interesting concept. It looks simple, looks straightforward. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it certainly looks good from the physical aspect of it and the puzzly aspect to it. I'm just interested about how the scoring actually works and what you're actually aiming for. But again, probably a more bespoke style game that's only a few copies being made of it. But it certainly has some table presence there. And if I was to see this in person, well, I go slightly muted version there, then it would grab my attention at least. So there we go, mandalas.
Look at Fans says the box cover is an A+. Agreed. It really shows you the gameplay, right? Gets you a feeling of what you're going into. I love it.
Yeah, Blair Bear said a New York slice style game. Yeah, it could be kind of a, who knows? So that would work. Okay. So just before we go on, to come back to look at Fan's comment about Shakespeare, I think he said he hasn't played it before because there are just too many similar Euros out there, and this is out of print. Yeah, it is very hard to get hold of, but I would say it does have its own identity, and it did differentiate itself. Not only because it looks wonderful, the theming itself, and also that bidding mechanism. I think it did hold its own. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It doesn't massively hold its own in a massive sea of games of similar ilk, really. Okie dokie. So let's move on then, and we're going to go on to our Why Is This in Your Collection segment. So this is where Mackenzie and I will choose a game from each other's collection and basically interrogate them to why they own it. It could just be a matter of interest, sell it to me, or it could be a matter of I hate this game, why do you like it, kind of thing. But let's get started. So do you want me to go first, or do you want you?
Go for it, Dan. Yeah? Lay it on me.
Okay, so I'm going to go for a very more interested vibe this one, so I'm not going to be critical. So the game I've chosen is a game that I've seen pretty steady but slow praise as it's come out, and I've never really looked into this one. I've not really given it a deep dive. I like the idea of it. I like the concept, and again, it seems to be pretty well received from the people who like it. So this is a game called Obsession. So Obsession, again, I don't know much about this one, but it does interest me. So how are you going to sell this one to me, Mackenzie?
Okay, Obsession is going to sell you based on its theme more than anything. So this is set in Victorian England. Your whole goal is to court the Fairchild children. So that means that you are going to be putting on these elaborate displays of riches to show that, hey, we like sports, you like sports, we want to marry my child. So it's very much you are trying to do what you can in order to get these people to come to your house. And the way you're doing that is by playing these family member cards. You'll play them onto the board, and you're going to basically be running events. So an event will tell you how many cards you're able to play, what cards you're able to play, and then what workers you need to do that action. So it's really interesting. The gameplay is very fast because on your turn you do the event, resolve the cards. It's very quick. And then at the end of your turn, you can buy a tile that'll go into your display. But the weird thing here is that you want to be activating all the tiles because every time you do so, they flip and they get better. But if you keep using the same tiles, you're not flipping as many tiles, you're not getting as many points. It's a very interesting game. Now, this game also includes lots of ways to score points. You have your own mini objectives that you get during the game. So you'll start with like a hand of 6 and you'll discard down to 3 as you play, which is really cool because you're going to have kind of these big overarching goals that you can pick and choose from as you play because you'll be discarding them as you keep on going through. But the big thing on this game is the theming. The theme is very strong. Each family has these visitors and these cards that you're going to be visiting that are going to be doing these events, and they all are very thematic with how they're interacting. And I think it's really interesting. If you are not a fan of this theme, I probably wouldn't give this game a second thought. It does share a lot of concepts with other games. It has that play your cards, pull them back mechanic. You can take a pass turn to pick everything up and do some additional bonus actions. It has tile placement, but the game itself is the theme. Yeah, if you want for a more gamery style of this game, where you're actually able to do some more planning and have some more interesting effects, I would recommend the expansion. This expansion is really good. It adds new workers that you can use that give you a lot of choice. There's like carpenters that let you look through the tile bag to pick a specific tile out and be able to purchase it. So you are able to decrease the amount of randomness in the game. You have I think it's called like the Handy Boy or something like that. It's really funny. The names are great, but you have characters that allow you to do a lot of versatility and a lot of choice, which I think is really important. And Tim is average is very correct here. He says, who would want to live in their own Jane Austen fantasy? Because that's exactly what this is. You also might not like this game because it plays into gender roles very supremely. You are marrying off your daughter. Like, that's happening. You are trying to set up people. It's very, very, very set to the time period that it's based off of on. So if you enjoy that, perfect. If not, it might not be the one for you. But I enjoy this one. I think it's fun. I think it's a very different game, very different theme, and it's one that I enjoy.
Okay, yeah. I noticed from the Board Game Geek page here, it says the time span is 30 to 90. Is that 30 realistic in a multiplayer game, or is that more of a solo game?
You can choose the length of this game, which is really interesting. So you can pick a long game or a short game. The short game is short. It's maybe 30, 45 minutes. Okay. You're going to be playing on this double-sided board, and each round you have like 3 turns, then a scoring, 3 turns, and a scoring, 3 turns, and a scoring, game over. So really fast. And each turn, remember, you're just doing a single action. So it's a very quick game. But you can, if you want to build a larger estate and take more actions, then you can play the longer game and flip it over. So I think both versions are great. I actually prefer the shorter game because I think it's a little bit more tight, and you're allowed to, your decisions really matter a lot more. But with the longer game, you're just kind of rich the whole time. So it's like you can, once you get to like turn 10, you can do anything. So it's kind of that, like the fine line of those engine building games where you're like, do I focus on getting the engine built and then end the game right when the engine's built, or do I let you run your engine for a while? So kind of finding that fine line.
Okay. Well, Blair Bear said he's interested in Obsession, so hopefully Mackenzie's pitch has sold it to you. And he's also said that he plays it back to back with Last Will, so maybe get all your money and then absolutely blow it. So yeah.
So I do want to stress that Obsession is a lot of fun. So the gameplay is fun. You're going to be using workers to play cards, and that's satisfying. The cards all are thematic and have little flavor text on each of them to show what they do. And courting the Fairchilds is cool. You're going to be buying specific buildings to get them into your spot, but that might conflict with your objectives. And the best part is, if you court a Fairchild, they come and visit you, so you actually get their character card and it goes into your hand, and it becomes a card you can use in the next round, which is super neat because you can choose whether to court the male or the female Fairchild, so you have a lot of flexibility with who you're going to be pairing them with. It is fun. So this game is not like the most, oh yes, I must strategize everything, but it's like, I'm here for the theme, I'm here for the fun, and it is a blast to play. So definitely want to leave with that, because this game is a blast.
Cool. Sounds good. And Tim has just said, yeah, Last Will and Obsession have similar vibes, but Last Will is probably a bit more silly, and I think you probably get that just from the box cover alone. Okay, so go for it, Mackenzie.
All right, so I went the other way again this time, so I had you explain how much you love Newton to me. So I basically just looked through your collection and found what you thought sucked. And this is your own personal rating. And this is a game that you've actually already talked about on our corporate cardboard before. And this is going to be Brutal Kingdom. So I'd love you to defend this game, because it has your favorite card of all time, the Bishop, with the cute little frog that does nothing. But why do you still keep it? Is it because of the frog? You can be honest.
Right. Okay. So first off, this game is currently in my collection. It won't be for much longer. So it still is on my shelf over there. I still need to put a review out for it. But yeah, I think this is kind of a role selection style game as you're picking these different characters, trying to use their powers to get points. I will say that there is at least one interesting element to this game. So let's talk about. So let's talk about the what I said negatively about it first. So first off, the different powers that you can choose are not interesting enough. Some of them are very circumstantial, very underwhelming, and you feel it just feels like a lot of it you're just playing cards to little to no effect, and that for me is not good enough, not interesting. Good thing for it, looks wonderful, has some of the greatest character cards that I've ever seen. But an additional thing that I really like about this game is the scoring system. So basically, as these cards are played, you're going to be, well, every single card has a certain suit to it, which is going to correspond to which points they score. And basically, at the start of the game, there's going to be a bunch of tokens kind of in the common pool area, and that is going to, I suppose, multiply by the cards you've played that turn. So the more cards are in the middle, the more points you're going to get from the cards you have. But as more people play them, more are getting gobbled up from the middle section, meaning they're worth less or fewer and fewer points. I may have botched the way that works, but nonetheless, yeah, the scoring system is really interesting, and it does have this almost Reiner Knizia-esque feel to it. But ultimately, yeah, I did rate this one a 4 out of 10. It is a 3 to 4 player game, and I think even saying it's a 3-player game is a stretch. I think this is an exclusive 4-player game. Because if you play a 3-player, you have to take some of the cards out, and again, that leaves a lot of the other cards nullified. So I can't advocate this game. I'm certainly not going to try and sell it to you. It's not great. I got it on a sale for dirt cheap. I think less than £5. Because of the designer, I like Michael Renick. He had his part in Merlin, which again I know you don't like, but yeah, it's with so many different games like this out there, this one wasn't good enough, so it won't be in my collection much longer. And if you look at my collection in a week's time, it'll probably say previously owned.
You've sold me on this. I'm not buying it. You got me.
Okie dokie. Yeah, Blair Bear says the artwork, the box art is really cool. Yes, it is, and I tell you what, some of the card art is even better. So yeah, really, it might be worth just keeping for some of the artwork.
You should get one of those murals and put it on the giant, frame it, get that artwork out there.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to defend this one. It's 4 out of 10. That's warranted.
Oh, poor Brutal Kingdom. Okay.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Let's move on then. So we are going to go into the A to Z section, where we are going to pick a game from a certain letter in the alphabet. So we did B last time, A last time, so we're up to B this week. And we're going to talk about a couple of games, one that's pretty light and inviting, and one that's more involved, heavy strategic game. And we're going to just say why we like them. So these could be really popular games. They could just be games that we don't think get enough coverage, just ones that we think are really good. So Mackenzie, go for one.
All right. So B is so good. There are so many good board games that start with B. Oh my gosh. It was so difficult. So I just went for my favorite games that start with B. I wanted to talk about some, but since this is on your channel, I think that I want to definitely share the love and kind of give opinions on what some of my favorite games are. So I'm going to start off with my light game, and this is in my top 10, actually. This is Biblios. Biblios is an incredible game. This is one of my favorite fillers ever. And oh my gosh, it's so good. I love that it comes in 2 distinct halves. I love the auctioning in this game. I love everything about this little package. And this is Dr. Finn, right? So this is Dr. Finn's lightning in a bottle, in my opinion. He has been chasing so long to try to capture this awesome, simple choice with these amazing consequences for every game that he's released now, trying to get this Biblios concept and feeling. And I don't think he's quite done it yet. I've been trying all his recent games with things like Whatnot Cabinet, and they just don't quite get there. And Biblios is this amazing package. I love the first half of the game where you're simply looking at a card and making an instant decision as to, do I keep it, do I put it out, or do I give it to somebody else. Oh, it is so good. And I love that you're crafting the auction pile for the second half of the game because you have information as to what's coming out. And I think that is so good. I love that you can change the points. I love that you can reserve money for future purchases. I love the push your luck aspect of putting out the cards, and the auction is tense and tight. I love that you can bid money you don't have, and if you get caught, you get punished for it. I love that there's that aspect there. And this game is just so good. If you have not played Biblios, give this one a try. This is my favorite filler game ever. It is so sound, so solid. The mechanisms are so good. I love this game. I talk about this game forever. So, but I'm not going to. Go ahead, Dan. What do you think?
No, couldn't agree more. A phenomenal filler game, one of the best out there, and I think bordering on an essential. I would recommend anybody to get this game because it's got so much depth. Still very easy to teach. So again, speculating on the points you're going to get because you're going to be manipulating the different suits or what they're worth by the end of the game. So many wrinkles to this game, and I think it is phenomenal. And as you said, Steve Finn hasn't really reached that peak again since Biblios. And yeah, certainly one of the best filler games ever made.
I do want to mention that this game is being reprinted as The King and I by Yellow. Yeah. This is going to be a 5-player version of the game, so you can even play with more, which is cool.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know if the original theme did put people off or not. I don't know. Personally, I like that kind of theme, but I suppose I have a very dry taste. But
the new theme is going to be it's going to be you trying to impress a monarch. So I mean, if that's something you're more interested in, that might be a good one for you. Look at fan.
Yeah. And yeah, he said here, he says one of those games that need a retheme, and he can't think of anything that would work better. Yeah. Again, I suppose it could work for anything, but I suppose monks writing books isn't going to light the world on fire, despite me loving it. Right, okay. So yeah, really good choice. And again, if you didn't pick that one, I probably would have, because one that I'd advocate to anybody. So I'm going to go for one that I do talk about a little bit on my channel. However, one that I don't think gets general buzz at all. This is a very simple abstract game. Very family-friendly game with some good production values. You've got some nice of those kind of acrylic tiles that you might find in something like in Azul. So this is a game called Bumuntu. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. So this is a game where you are simply traversing this grid of tiles. You've got this, I think it's an 8x8 grid. Let's see if we can get some pictures here. Here we go. Where you're basically starting on one of these tiles, which will have different animals on them. You've got like elephants, you've got rhinos, you've got monkeys, and they all work in very different ways. So that's going to decipher the moves that you can take. So for example, the monkeys might be able to move diagonally, or the rhinos go as far as they can to one end to the other. And basically, wherever you start your turn on, you're going to end up picking up one of these tiles and collecting them behind your screen. But what I really like about this game, that might sound all very, very standard stuff, and I suppose it is. But yeah, what I really like about the game is how the scoring works. So certain tiles, as you can see here, the ones with these kind of black backgrounds, whenever you take one of those tiles, you can actually choose to manipulate the scoreboard. So if I was to, take one of these tiles and I've got loads of elephants behind my screen, I might say, let's move the elephants further up the track, and at the end of the game, they're going to be worth more points to me. So some of these spots on this score track are going to give you 1 point per tile you have, or even 2 points per tile you have, or some of them will work in kind of majority. So the first player gets 7 points, the second player gets 3 points for majorities. And that's pretty much all there is to the game. It plays very quickly. There's an extra little set collection bonus where certain tiles have these different faces on them, and you can pick them up for additional points. And it just works well. It flows well. The puzzly aspect to it means that you can map out your routes quite efficiently. Like say, I'm going to move here to here, then I'm going to go there to there, and then there to there. And of course, other people are interacting and picking up pieces that you want, pushing you out of the way by using different powers and stuff. And it just works well, and it comes together nicely. And I'm generally not a big fan of abstract games, but this is one that worked for me.
And that's cool. Does the board change as you play? Because you're taking the tiles off, right? Do they slide around, or is it static, the rest of it?
So yeah, you're gonna, whenever you take these tiles, you're gonna put them on behind your screens, leaving gaps in between these in between the tiles essentially. And then certain tiles are going to let you jump over gaps and stuff because they have unlimited movement, for example. But also, if you ever find yourself stranded on one of these spots without the tiles, you're going to use these banana tokens in order to basically move your pawn 1 space per banana token you cash in. So it gives you a bit of mitigation there if you find yourself stranded. But yeah, as you go on, the board itself is going to get tighter and tighter and leave you fewer and fewer options. But I thought this was a really nice one, and again, one that flew really under the radar, but one that landed for me.
Sweet. All right. So my bigger game. So I talked about my favorite filler. This is one of my favorite games ever. And Look It Fan has called it already. It's Blood Rage. So I love Blood Rage. I got to play it this week, and oh my gosh, it's wonderful. So Blood Rage is a game where you have this Euro-inspired mechanisms with card drafting and gathering points, but it is super combat-centric, and I think that's lovely. Now, combat doesn't mean necessarily you're winning these combats, but you're also able to take advantage of specific fights going on. So what's happening here? In Blood Rage, Ragnarok is occurring. The world is ending, and it's your job to get as much glory as possible, whether it be by dying in battle, recruiting your forces, or completing quests for the gods. So you have all these different choices as you play, and that's represented through a card drafting system. Everybody starts off exactly the same, but from turn one, the first card you pick is going to make you different than everybody else. And I think that's really cool. You have that emergent progress as you play. You're getting stronger each time you play a card, and each age scales strength-wise, so I think that's super fun. There's many different strategies that you can employ. You can go based on which god that you're kind of aligning with. You can be all about death and go for Loki's strategy. You can go for winning in glorious battle and being Tyr, or you can go with something a little bit more quest heavy and stick with Odin. You have lots of different choices here, lots of mitigation, lots of choices on how you're going to progress. But the best part about this game is how tight the actions are. So on your turn, you only get to do one thing. And that's huge. So you can put a dude on the board, you can move some dudes, you can cause a fight, you can play a card, or you can prep a quest. And that's it. So the order in which you do these things is gigantic. It's all about opportunism. It's all about reading the board. It's about reading the other players, kind of understanding what they're doing. And the combat in this game is so smooth and so well done. It's one that I just want to play all the time because I want to play all the different strategies. I want to just go forward. And this game is just so good, and I love how it's dependent on the game group, what things that you're going to be playing, what things that are going to be more popular, and it also depends on the player count because certain cards will be introduced and certain cards will be taken out. So this game plays good at everything but 2. Would not recommend it to, but every other player count is incredible. This is just one that I find myself coming back to a lot. In this past play that I did, I tried a new strategy I'd never done. I picked up some giants and did a leader-centric strategy, and it worked really well. It was really fun, and I just love that you can do that. You can say, this is what I'm doing today, and plan for it and see how it plays out. So fantastic. I love Blood Rage. I love the theme. I love the color. I love the design. I love the combat. I love the monster upgrades, and it has those satisfying bases that you smack onto things. This is another game that I could talk about forever. I love this. Board games are so good. Dan, you're so good. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, Blood Rage is a really solid game. I mean, generally, I think Eric Lang is one of the pioneers of these area control style games. And yeah, the thing I did really like about Blood Rage was the way you can diversify so much. My clan is completely different to yours by the end of the game. Great table presence, amazing miniatures that you kind of go beyond really for a board game. And so I think considering the amazing production value, it's pretty affordable, I think, in relation to that. Yeah. So yeah, I can certainly see why this is so popular. Do you prefer this one over Rising Sun or not?
This is in my top 5 actually. I love this game. So yes, I prefer it over Rising Sun. I love the mass amounts of control you have, and I love the customization more in this game than in his other works. I'm really excited. He has announced that he's working on a sequel to Blood Rage recently. So that's super exciting. The fact that it's a brand new system that's using the whole, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what it's borrowing, but it's borrowing a lot from the core game, which I think is fascinating. Wasn't sure at first if it was going to be an expansion to the original game, but it has been announced that it is a full-on sequel. So interested to see where that takes it, but man, I love this game. Even just the new expansion, it's not really an expansion. It was some promos, 2 new monsters for the game, changed it drastically. It's really cool. They have these 2 new creatures that are there, and that's just the idea that 2 cards can affect the game so drastically is really cool. I like it. Oh,
cool. Yeah, this is actually a game I haven't played in many years, actually. I mean, I played this one when I first kind of got into the hobby. This one got to the table quite quickly, and then since then I haven't played it. So it'll be quite interesting to go back to this one and see if it really is. Now I've got kind of a bigger catalogue of experience. It'll be interesting to see how it holds up to the sea of area control games out there. But yeah, certainly held its own, and I think it's in the top 50 on Board Game Geek. So yeah, immensely popular. And Tim has made a comment here, said he was so bad at reading the other players and the board, and he was absolutely slaughtered. But it hits the category of that being still being fun even when you lose, and I think that does actually that's really true actually with Blood Rage. So yeah, good comment, Tim. Okay, so the heavy game I'm going to talk about, or the more involved game, is holding true to my last show's pick by being the same designer. This one is by Stefan Feld, called Bonfire. Now, Bonfire is a really strange game, one that's going to be pretty hard to portray in a video like this, because it's really wacky. It's got a weird theme that you can't really tie to anything tangible, really. However, what I really liked about this game was that it seemed to be a step back into the kind of Stefan Feld game that I really like. So I don't know about you, Mackenzie, but I think in recent years, there's been a slight stray from the kind of Feld games that I like. I wasn't a big fan, or I still like them, but I wasn't a huge fan like I normally am. With like Carpe Diem, I wasn't blown away with. I wasn't blown away with Tuscany, Castle of Tuscany. I wasn't blown away with Forum Trajanum. So when it was announced that Bonfire was coming out, it was going to be a revert back to its heavier, more involved, meaty Euro games. And my hopes were really high, and this one even exceeded my hopes. I think it's an amazing game. A game that you can pretty much do a lot of things in this one. But I suppose the thing I really want to talk about is how you're actually going to take your actions in the first place. So you actually take your actions using this really interesting tile placement system, which are basically these little strips, these little cardboard strips, which are, I think, broken down into 3 different actions, which you can just about see here on these player boards. And you're going to basically line them out in these different vertical and horizontal strips. And the more actions you line up with each other, it's going to be the power of those actions you can take. So you can really compound your actions, get a lot of mileage out of your turns, should you choose to do so. Or you can obviously take a more diverse approach. And what you're essentially trying to do is you are sailing around these different islands, collecting these different missions, trying to fulfill those missions to like these bonfires, which get you victory points. You're trying to move the spirit up this walking track here and get points that way. Lots of things going on, very mechanical. Again, a theme that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But for me, the gameplay is just immensely strong. And one of those games as well that I think I always bite off more than I can chew with this game. I think I'm going to do all these missions, no worries, and by the end I've completed one of them. It's but I still love it. I think this is a fantastic Feld game.
And I really enjoy how all of the different pieces of the game are interconnected. So I really enjoy that. So like the missions themselves are really interesting. It's like, hey, get 5 more missions, and that's like your job now. You don't have to complete them, but just get 5 more. And you're just like, I could do that. And then, like you said, you're biting off more than you can chew. And then if you do the missions, this is going to affect the resources that you get, and the resources you get are going to affect the portals that you're going to have for these missions. And you're trying to match up colors. You're trying to be first to do certain things, and it is so fascinating. I like this one a lot. So this is one that I really enjoy. I like the various amounts of decisions. I like how the players really determine the pace of the game based on what they're doing. I like the wild system because you can take any action whenever you want. However, it's just going to be more inefficient for you. And I think that's really good. I like that idea a lot. Yeah.
And just to jump in, Tim said he's going to bed. That's fine. I'll see you. Hopefully you can catch up on the show later, Tim. And thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. And thanks for your input. And yeah, Blair Bear said about Bonfire that it's a game that you either hated it or loved it, and it was quite polarizing when it first came out. I think that's probably, it seems to be the theme or running theme with Stefan Feld games. You're either in that really loving it camp or in that camp where it's just too dry for you and too mechanical. But they work for me, and they just really resonate with me. And as you said, I've had so many situations here when I've taken these missions where one mission says complete or have 2 missions complete, 2 blue missions. I've got a tile that says complete 2 yellow missions, one that says complete 2 red missions. And then I realize after I've collected them all, it's impossible for me to do them all. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's fantastic. And I'm absolutely rubbish at that game. But still, brilliant.
The artwork is also really cool. It's the same guy who did Terra Mystica artwork. So I think that's awesome that he's doing more fantasy stuff. So I think it's neat. I like it a lot.
Yeah, he's a really great artist. He does quite a lot of other Feld games. Is it Dennis Lauhausen, I think he's called? He's really good artist, especially for Euro games. Okie dokie. So we are going to go straight in to the last segment, which is going to be a bit of audience participation. So thanks. Oh, not that one. Thanks very much for all your questions throughout, guys. Thanks, really been really good to interact with you. So the question last week we asked was regarding how many games are in your collection. And I was quite interested to see the actual results of this one. So I'll just get it up and share if I can. So we broke it down to different categories, from 1 to 49, 50 to 100, etc. And yeah, the results were pretty interesting. So if I can just get this one up here. How many games do you have in your collection, Mackenzie?
So in the SideGame library, so I've done, with opening up this business, I've basically joined my collection with the library. It's all just part of it now. So in the SideGame library, we have 330 games. So we have a large amount, and it's got all sorts of variety, lots of places here. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so I think, well, obviously, yeah, with you, yours is essentially a library, as you said. In my personal collection, I think I've got about 150, give or take. Probably the highest it's ever been at, actually. But yeah, on the breakdown from this poll here, we've had quite a few responses. I think over 400 responses, which is really nice. And I was quite interested to see this gradient here, where it seems the fewer games, there seems to be more people having them. So 1 to 49 was the biggest with 30%. Then in the next bracket, 50 to 100 was 27%, 100 to 199, 23%. So it seems the more games, the fewer people are having that many, which I suppose you would expect to see. But with this being, I suppose, quite a niche channel, I was expecting to see somewhat of a kind of a peaking in the middle kind of gradient, where maybe people would have more than up to 50 games and start to filter down as it got more and more. But I thought that was quite fascinating, and it goes to show that people do keep nice and trim collections. And I wish I could be more of the same, really.
Now, honestly, with keeping trim collections, so in the SideGame library, I aggressively cull stuff. Like, I am constantly, because every single game in that library I've played, I know how to play and I know how to teach. And I make sure that that's constant. Right now I have one unplayed game because it came in yesterday. That's Burgle Bros 2. So it's set up on the table right now, ready to go. But man, I make sure that it gets played so that I know is this a good game? No? Peace. See ya. So definitely try to aggressively cull. And I love that people keep these link collections here. But Blair Bear is saying that he can't let go of games. And I definitely see that a lot of people have this problem. What do you think on this, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be as ruthless as I can. Sometimes I find myself piling up on very similar games, which I don't mean to do, but that's a personal taste thing. Trying to be better with that. But I'm really happy with the amount that I have here. And I think I'm not so fussed about the number. I'm more concerned about having every game I love. If that's 200, then so be it. As long as I'm happy to play any single one of them at any time, then I would be I'm happy with that. I don't want a bunch of mediocre games because there's too many coming out all the time. And I think it's just going to add more and more just bloat to the collection. Crossley here has said that he's on about 80. He's trying to get it down to 50, but he keeps expanding. Yeah, it's just completely unavoidable, I think, in this hobby. There's too much stuff coming out. But yeah, interesting question, I think, and good to see a wide spread of results there. Okay, so the question for next episode we're going to be discussing is how much time do you spend playing games per week? So, are you going to spend every single night of the week playing games? Is it going to be a once a night thing? Is it going to be once every other week kind of thing? For me, it fluctuates a bit. Sometimes I find myself having really good weeks. Sometimes I find myself having really bad weeks. What about you, Mackenzie?
I play a lot of games. I don't have kids or anything like that. I have my day job and I have this channel. But other than that, I guess, and SideGame, go figure. So my game nights. But I play a lot of games because, as I said, big collection. I got to play these things. I got to make sure that I'm getting things played. And I love it. I love playing games. So I'm constantly playing games. I don't really use technology that often outside of the YouTube and work and whatnot. But so all my free time is generally either hang out with my wife or play some games. And that's what's going on. So I play a lot of games.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I mean, unfortunately for me, I don't have kids, which I don't want. So that's good. That's more free time for me. But unfortunately, I do work shifts, so sometimes I go a long time without playing games. But if I could play more, I would. And it's just a matter of getting everyone to the table, because my main partner to play games with is my brother, and he also works shifts. So we have a lot of crossover where we just don't see each other for days and days and days. So yeah, some good weeks, some bad weeks, but I'm generally happy with how much I get to play. Any opportunity I will seize and try to get something played. Okay, so we'll put that question out in a poll in the next couple of days as well. And I think that just about concludes everything we wanted to discuss today. So anything you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
Nothing in particular. Oh, I do want to say I just crossed the 600 subscribers mark last night, actually. So that's pretty exciting. Life's good. We're moving up here. Almost at that 1,000 mark. I'm getting up there, so that's super cool. We have so I'm a teacher, so I'm about to hit the summer vacation here, so that's really exciting. I have a lot more free time, and I just posted on my channel 3 minutes ago that we are going to be doing Frank Con. So my name is Mackenzie Franklin. So Frank Con is our family con that we do with my brother, my wife, and his wife, and we get together and we are just going to be gaming a bunch, and we're actually going to be doing a design competition. So are you familiar with Button Shy Games, Dan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Button Shy puts out these contests, 18 card contests. And this happens pretty much every year. They do a contest where they're going to challenge you to make something. And this time it's a 18 card role-playing game. And I think this sounds crazy fun to do a game like this. So that's a challenge that we're going to do while we're there. And I'm excited to give it a try and see what we can come up with.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds good. What about any games you're looking forward to playing before the next episode?
The thing I'm looking most forward to playing is actually Vienna Connection. So Vienna Connection is the new detective style game by Portal Games. It's in the mail right now. It should be here today. Super excited. It's set in Cold War era. So it's very similar theming to Pandemic Legacy Season 0, except you play as Italian agents. So you work with the FBI and you're trying to it's all based on historical events, which is really fascinating. And you're trying to solve these crimes in this detective system, which is it's a crime solving system I really enjoy. So I'm really excited to jump into this, and the thematic nature of this is really cool. They've been putting out these like promo letters, like we received letters in the mail about the game, and that's really neat. It says like we opened up a letter the other day and it's like your mission report. So it's really cool. They've really gone thematic with this, which is it's just great. I love those little touches.
Love it.
How about yourself? What are you excited for? Anything cool coming up?
Yeah, well, tonight actually, as Crossy here has said, Cross is going to come around my house tonight because it's been the first time that we've been able to do so for a long time. So I think we are going to try and play On the Rocks, which was I think a newly fulfilled Kickstarter game about making cocktails. So interesting. Oh, fun! We're hoping to try and play. Is it Santa Maria in the next couple of days? A little dice drafting game. That looks like it could be really good. And hopefully before the next episode, I'm going to be able to get Brass to the table and share my thoughts on that one. So hopefully I'm going to have some time to do that.
Please prioritize Brass.
That's going to be as soon as I played. I know the rules to Santa Maria, so before I forget them, I want to get it played, and then I go straight onto Brass.
And to answer Blair Bear's comment, it does not come with a decoder ring. Actually, that's not true. Who really knows? There's a bunch of sealed envelopes. Maybe we're going to find out that we need more Ovaltine. So who knows? We'll see.
Okay, so I think that just about wraps up the episode. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. It's been really good. I think we've had a good time. I don't know the exact date when we'll be back for another one, but we'll give you plenty of notice when we'll be doing that. And we'll be doing it over on the SideGame LLC channel, where Mackenzie will be hosting. So again, thanks for joining us. It's been really good, and we'll see you next time on Corporate Cardboard.
Thanks, everybody. SideGame strong.
Thanks a lot. See you later. Goodbye.